Hello, everybody. This is Kyrix with another edition of This Week in Kyrix. Today is Wednesday, June 6th, 2018. So that's cool. I've actually had a pretty busy goddamn week. I managed to overdraft a teensy bit. Okay, what happened was I bought a game called Stranded Deep for Steam. Because I've been on this kick where I want to do lots of crafty games. It's partly this game's fault, partly because I just love those games in general. You know, it's just a genre that I really enjoy. That's the reason I have 7 Days to Die, the game. You know, I'm not diagnosed with something. Not that I'm aware of. Anyway, so yeah, the computer... You know, I looked up the thing like, oh, here's all the news you have. You can have this thing, etc. You need these specifications to play at minimum quality, and I met those specifications, so I bought it. And the computer was a liar. It was a lag fest. It just didn't work. And I basically, within 26 minutes of play, according to Steam itself, I'm like, Steam, can you please give me back my money because I am poor and cannot justify this? When I finally get a job and get a new computer, I will buy this game again, and I will play it all the time. But right now, no. So I did that. Got my refund processed that day. It's just, it has to kick back to PayPal, and then I have to put it back in my bank account. So, I want to say it was this morning, because I did that Monday. This morning, I'm, you know, doing Kyrix shit. Bless you, pupper. And I hear a ding on the phone. I'm like, oh, I'll look at this ding. And I got a thing from Chase. And I'm like, what the fuck am I getting from Chase? I thought it was Google Chrome, but it was Chase. It's like, yeah, you overdrafted $3.50. Yeah, that's $350. That's a big difference. If I overdraft $350, I'm either complaining to the bank that something went horribly wrong, or I'm closing that goddamn account and trying again elsewhere. You know? I am not making up $350 overdraft. So, anywho, $3.50, so I stayed up later than usual when I normally would have been asleep, and basically waited to catch the room and said, hey, dude, can I get $5? So I went and deposited that. For those who don't know, my bank, oh God, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago, during early Obama administration, a bill was passed that basically kept banks from fucking people over as much as they wanted to. My bank's response to that was to have a system of overdraft protection, which I did not get, and I'll get into that in a minute. What overdraft protection means is that I can overdraft, say, $20. Like, I can buy a pair of shoes for $20 when I have, like, $1 in the bank and overdraft the 19. And as long as before midnight I get that money back in, I'm cool. But I don't have that. What I have instead is that I cannot overdraft. I cannot make a purchase that I cannot immediately cover. The exception, and this has gotten me in the past until I figured out what it was, the exception is any preset payments. For example, in this particular case, a preset payment was my Banfield shit for the girls. Banfield hit, I didn't have all the money in the bank at the time, and it overdrafted me. But I've got the money in there now. In a couple days, I will have it back in my bank. I am trying to scheme, because that's what I do, to get, to get enough money to see the new Jurassic World when it comes out. I was going to see it the day of, like, in 3D, but I'm like, no, I really can't justify that cost. And it doesn't really matter that much if you see it in 3D. It's cooler, but as long as I see it, you know. So I'm going to catch it for like $8 the day after. Well, not the day after, the official day of. I'll see it the Friday when it's supposed to come out, as opposed to seeing the pre-show on Thursday. But, yeah, it's just simple shit like that. And I want to have about 10 bucks as a cushion in case my friend will be my ride and want me to cover her tournament fee. Though, in fairness, she never asked me to cover her tournament fee last time. That was just something I did. It's like, hey, I don't have gas money, really. You know, you were nice enough to come get me. I'll cover your tournament fee. Because at the time I had it to spare. What was I after in here? Ah, I remember. Do I have any of that? I do. Actually, I think I can make this by hand now that I think about it. I can. Oh wait, these are shears, aren't they? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Like, why? Why is it thus? Oh, wait. I did a bad. So that's just a thing I'm gonna do for a little bit. Burn down a couple trees, like this one here. Or that works too. Okay, that works. It does what I need it to do. I broke one of my, not hard, but one of my rules, which is I do not like to watch anything subtitled as far as Japanese animes and shit go. If there is a dub in production, and I know about it. But I got tired of how long Super was taking, so I've been watching the Tournament of Power in Japanese, against my better judgment. And I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's just that at this rate, to even get to any of the episodes, much less all of them, I'd be looking at like a year of waiting. And it's just bullshit to wait that long for something that's been out for years already. So, I'm nearly done with that, so that's fun. I bought a couple games that were on sale. Well, actually, I bought one game and kept. That game being Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. It's a game that I've been meaning to play again for a while. I had it way back in the bootleg days. You know, I got it off like LimeWire or BitTorrent or whatever, and played it way back when I still had a desktop computer before I started getting laptops. And it's a great game. Especially when you legitimately own it. That's always fun. To not be a pirate. And, God, for a second there, that looked like a burning cross. I'm like, is the KKK here? Because that's kind of fucked up. So yeah, I have that, and of course it's a keyboard and mouse game because it was made back in the days before, you know, game developers had sense. Like, oh, it's a computer, they'll love to play keyboard and mouse. No, some of us want a decent control scheme. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I have that X-Patter thing, which X-Patter basically lets you map keys to a controller. And that's what it did, and it controls infinitely better. I will never understand those people who think keyboard and mouse is a superior control scheme. Because here's the deal about keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse exists as a control scheme because computers were never intended to play video games. Not as they are, anyway. And I described it to a friend as, I can play Grand Theft Auto with a Guitar Hero guitar. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. you know. Likewise, you can play all sorts of video games with a keyboard and mouse. It's not a good idea. It's not optimal. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there are people who are really good at keyboard and mouse, and good for them. Good for them for making the best of a bad situation. And there are plenty of computers that make good gaming platforms, but they're not great gaming platforms, because here's... I'm the perfect example of that. Of why I don't really see the computer as a gaming system, because my system, my specs say I can play Stranded Deep. They also say I can play Cuphead, and 2 or 3 other games that I cannot physically fucking play. You know? And, as a result, I didn't get a refund at Cuphead, because that's something Sammy bought for me. You know, it's something I'll be able to play eventually, just not anytime soon. But I mean, with Stranded Deep, I would love to play that right now. Matter of fact, I'd kind of love to be playing that more than I'm playing this. I'd love to be playing Raft. I'd love to be playing half a dozen games. But I can't. And my specs say that I can, but the specs are fucking lying. Meanwhile, I'm playing this on a PS3. You find me a PS3 game, and I can play it on my PS3. It doesn't matter. I mean, granted, this is not one of the older ones. This is one of the newer ones, as it were. I think it's one of the last models before they switched to the new slidey top design, which I also had one of those. I gave it to a friend, but I had one of those. You know. So yeah, that's just how that is. And regardless, you give me a PS3 game and I can fucking play that PS3 game on my PS3. Back in the old NES days, it doesn't matter if it was fucking Super Mario Brothers with Duck Hunt or fucking Mega Man 6, which is one of the last games made on that console. I could put it in my system and play it. Period. Super Nintendo, it didn't matter if it was Super Mario World or fucking whatever else that came out last second, you know, I could play it. The only real exceptions were things like the Sega CD, not Sega CD, but like the 32X or whatever, that was like an expansion. Or if you played the N64, there was an expansion pack that you could put in to play extra content with certain games, like if you played StarCraft 64. If you had the expansion pack, which I didn't own, but I rented from Blockbuster. Fuck. If you plugged in the expansion pack in your system, you could play Brood War shit, which is really cool. You know. And, but again, I could play StarCraft 64 on any N64. I just, if I wanted the extra shit, I had to do that. So think of that as DLC. But that's the problem with computers, is the best gaming computer you have is not going to be good in 10 years compared to some of the other shit. You know? Like, I bought this, fuck, let's lowball it and say 5 years ago. It's probably closer to 8 to 10, but let's say 5 years. And 5 years ago, I could have played every game in my Steam library on this thing. Not now. You know? And admittedly, part of it's because the system has been wearing down. Like, my computer's probably operating at 2/3 of what it should. But that doesn't change the fact that it's just not what it should be. I wish they just labeled the gaming platforms on computer like, you need PC-27 to play this game. Oh, damn, I only have PC-26. Better upgrade. But the modular nature of computers, which, by the way, is a good, respectable thing, just means that, you know, unless you have a lot of money or the capabilities to make your own or whatever, you're going to have to replace that thing constantly because PCs work on a different system than consoles, you know? And in some cases, it can mean better performance because, you know, well, the PS3 can only handle this. So if you have a PC, you can have these graphics or whatever. You know. So I'm not saying that there aren't plenty of places where the PC does win. I just consider it an inferior platform because it's not reliable. You know, the mere fact that I cannot just say, oh, computer game, here we go. Whereas I can do that with every other console I own. And there are some things where I will admit keyboard and mouse is a superior system, like if you're playing RTS games, you know. Like, I'll tell you right now, if you're playing a PC, you're going to have better RTS control because you have infinitely more buttons. You know, just the alphabet alone gives you 26 buttons compared to, like, the 16 or so on a controller. Like, let's see. On this controller in my hand, I got 12, 16, 20, 24 buttons on this controller. So just the alphabet alone gives you 2 more buttons to work with, and that doesn't throw in the numbers, the directions, the second set of numbers, etc. But the PC people like to pretend that the computer is flatly better in all regards, and my response to that is this. If you really think that keyboard and mouse is just hands down the superior system in all cases, then let's download an SNES emulator, which is legal for 24 hours. Let's do that, and then we're going to put Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat 1 or one of the Dragon Ball Z fighting games, any fighting game. I'll use a controller, you'll use a keyboard and mouse, and we'll see who wins more matches. And by the way, you're not allowed to macro the buttons. Like, oh, I press F and I do the quarter circle forward for the Hadouken. No, you gotta do it manually. As someone who used to play fighting games on keyboard and mouse, that shit sucks. It's doable, but to quote Chris Rock, you can drive a car with your feet if you want to. That don't make it a good idea. So yeah, it's just, I'm not a big keyboard and mouse guy. I mean, like I said, if you can do that, more power to you. You're making the best of a bad system, I think. Like, there are people who can drive stick shift and people who can drive automatic, and generally speaking, the people who can't drive stick shift look at the people who do and think, wow, that's pretty cool. Glad you can do that, but I'm just going to pull this lever up and down and work the car without having to fucking put in the Konami code to go straight. You know? But, yeah, I got Bloodlines. I'm actually going to play it a little bit more. I stopped for a bit. There's a semi-free, well, not semi-free, it is free, but it's incredibly watered-down version of Raft that I've been playing. It is so bare bones, but it lets me practice, it lets me play for a bit. And I was doing horrible, like, I was constantly dying of thirst and shit because I couldn't get all the materials I needed. Like, I couldn't get enough scrap with the keyboard and mouse bullshit. Plus, keyboard and mouse does not work well when you have a mouse pad like I do. But I was doing that, and it just wasn't going anywhere at all. They're just nowhere fucking fast. And whatever happened to my red sheep? But then I plugged in the X-Padder and mapped the keys to controller functions, and immediately noticed a difference in my gameplay quality. Like, I went from sucking to just doing real good, you know, and been having a little bit of fun with it. I'll log in for like 20 minutes to an hour at a time and just play for a bit, and then save the game and do other shit. And likewise, Vampire the Masquerade, as soon as I plug in the controller, my gameplay goes through the roof. You know, I do exponentially better. Like, if you were to rate it, my keyboard and mouse play on a 1 to 10 scale, my keyboard and mouse play is a 3, my controller play is like a 9, you know? It's orders of magnitude better. Because I've grown up with just about every kind of controller mankind has devised in my hand. And I have owned almost every system. And the ones I haven't owned, most of the fact I played. Like, I haven't done much with the Dreamcast, despite owning one. I've played a little bit of Saturn, although I did have a Saturn-style controller. For the Genesis, ironically, it was one of those double compatibles. I could use it for the Genesis or the Saturn, and I used it for the Genesis. Nintendo 64, the Wii, Super Nintendo, NES, Genesis, Master System, Saturn. Have played a little bit of Dreamcast. Own one, in fact. I'm not sure where it is. Both Ataris with multiple styles of controller, by the way. Like the Atari had something like 20 different controllers, and that's just the shit my sister owned. You know, like there's the paddle ball, there's the weird phone-looking thing with the 9 digits. There's the normal joystick. There's the secondary joystick, which is the secondary joystick. For those who don't know, looks like a remote controller with a joystick at the end and 2 buttons. Why there were 2 buttons, I don't know, because the Atari only had input for 1, so I guess they both literally did the same thing, and they just wanted it to look that way? I don't know. But, so yeah, I am infinitely more comfortable with a controller, and I will say that if you were a kid who grew up only playing keyboard and mouse, you're going to find a controller a lot clunkier until you adapt to it. Whereas I've been doing keyboard and mouse for years, and it doesn't change the fact that even though I can do it, I'd rather do the controller. A big part of why I never got into World of Warcraft is the controller, because when I first started an MMO, I had a demo for City of Heroes, and I found that on my own. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play City of Heroes. My computer can handle it, and I'm gonna play me some City of Heroes. And a friend of mine is like, no, you should play WoW with me. I'm like, okay. She gave me a trial, and I told her, I will play this with you. You know, I'm not currently interested in exploring on my own. You brought me here. You're babysitting me. You know? And she only played with me for like a couple of hours, like 2 or 3 different sessions, so it never got anywhere. But the character creation was inferior, and I do not recall there being control support. Meanwhile, City of Heroes has an amazing had an amazing character creation system. Like, you could spend an hour just making a character. Whereas WoW was like, oh, you can be this color zombie, or this color zombie, or this color zombie, with 4 different heads to choose from. You know, it just kind of didn't stack up the same way, you know? And then the nail in the coffin was the fact that City of Heroes allowed me to use a controller, and WoW, by default, did not. And this is back before I knew X-Patter was a thing, or maybe I would have gotten somewhere with it. So between those 2 factors, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play Co. But when a friend of mine got Diablo 3, and he was basically, there were 2 reasons I didn't play Diablo 3 a lot. What happened was, he didn't get me a copy of Diablo 3. He got his wife a copy, or maybe she got one of her own. But her system couldn't handle it, and mine could. So she basically let me play on her account, because she couldn't. And he's trying to get me to play and do all this, because basically if you got really good gear, you could sell it for real money on the auction house, and he was trying to make it a second job for himself and a first job for me. And I told him, do not constantly bully me into this. And what he would do is, he would be like, you playing Diablo? No! Why aren't you playing Diablo? Get on, you fucking nub, play Diablo! You know, and he would basically bully me into it. He was treating it like I had to do 6 hours of Diablo a day, you know? And at that point, it becomes a job and not a game. It's not fun anymore. And if it's not fun, why the fuck am I playing it? You know? And that was one reason. The other reason was the lack of controller. And I think towards the end of my time playing that game, I got X-Patter and got that to work, but I don't think I ever did. You know, likewise, that's why I never got into Marvel Heroes. And there are numerous games that if they'd had controller support, like a game in the 21st century fucking should, I'd have played them. You know, I'd have played them more, or I'd have played them at all, but those games didn't. And it just ruined it for me. It's like, why do I even bother with this if it's not going to have a good fluid controller system? And the funny thing is, as much shit as he talked about me, like, oh, I can't believe you can't use keyboard and mouse. You're stupid. Just use keyboard and mouse. It's not better than controller. Even he had to admit that as soon as you put a controller in my hands with that game, my gameplay improved exponentially to the point where even he couldn't run his mouth. You know? Because he was telling me it was all in my head. I'm like, no, I legitimately do not work with this. And then I got a controller working, and suddenly I'm outperforming him now, you know? And that's just a thing he had to adapt to. Finally, you little fucker, come here. Yoink. Give me that. But Kyrix, why did you shear the sheep? Because that white bed is fucking bothering me. I mean, white's kind of a dull color as it is, but when I first started playing this game, beds were red, and I miss my red bed. It's really that simple. That went remarkably quickly, actually. I'm a little alarmed at how quickly that happened. By the way, it's kind of embarrassing, but the only reason I remember how beds work in this game, or how to construct them, is the song Don't Mine at Night. Three wool and 3 wooden planks. There we fucking go. Give me this thing, you whore! There, perfect. Much better. So yeah, let's talk about the awesome thing that happened. Because something awesome happened. As you most likely know, I have PlayStation Plus. And PlayStation Plus carries with it free shit every month. And for the first time ever, I have a quantifiable amount of how much free shit I got this month. Because it occurred to me recently that, hey, I can log on to PlayStation Store on my computer and get all my PSP or PlayStation Plus shit there, and not have to just go on to both systems, like do it on the PS3 and then log into the PS4 and all that shit. And when you do that, it has like, oh, here's what the price would be, and here's the zero that you're paying, and then I put them all in my cart and I bought them. Because my friend used to tease me like, well, why are you doing this? You know, you're not saving money. I'm like, dude, I'm getting so many free games. It's not free. You're paying $9.99 a month for it. I'm like, it's free. Well, here's that final slap to the face. Yesterday or the day before, $9.99 was billed to my account. Okay? And I put this in Discord because I was telling a friend. Today, that is to say the 6th, at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, I got this month's cycle of free games. And I didn't even get them all. I skipped all the Vita/PSP shit. And I got, for free, $119.95 worth of stuff. Now, most of it's shit that I'm probably not going to fuck with. It's just, hey, if I ever want this, here it is. You know, like, one of them is like some kind of racing game. And for all I know, I'll see a Let's Play 3 years from now about how awesome this game is, and just want to do it myself. Because that's been known to happen. that has occasionally happened with games that I actually already own. But one of the games will be going on the PS4 as soon as I get out there to do it. I now own XCOM 2. That's one of my freebies for the month. So I own both XCOMs, one on PS3, one on PS4. So, fuck yeah. Now, as I recall with these will continue to grow constantly, so I don't even need to replant them. I just get my pumpkins. And that's pretty goddamn cool, not gonna lie. So yeah, that's the cool thing that happened to Kyrix. Today, I own XCOM 2, and I'm gonna play it a lot. Especially now that I have it. I also now own Final Fantasy 12, and that's one of the things that kind of fucked me in the ass. Because I keep wanting to say I spent $32. No, 32 was what I paid for the fucking sandals. And I'll get into that story in a minute. But I was looking through my emails for something. Whatever it was, I was in my Hotmail account that I almost never use. Something sent me there. And while I was in there, or maybe it was one of those little alerts that I got. For whatever reason, I got some kind of notification that, hey, you just got Gamefly dollars. I'm like, oh, I like Gamefly dollars. And then I'm like, wait a second. A month or two ago, wasn't I trying to buy something with Gamefly dollars? So I checked, and because it was the same day, sure enough, I still had last cycle's thing. For those who don't know, Gamefly members, I don't know if it's always or if you have to be a member for at least 3 months. I'm on the 9-month membership again, which is as far as it tracks. That's pretty much where your extra goodies stop happening. I mean, you still get all your goodies, it's just you don't get new, fresh goodies, you know. But every 3 months, so 4 times a year, I get a $5 coupon, good for any used media. Used to be games, but now they have DVDs and shit. Oh, I'm sorry, Princess. Come on in. Oh, you're not Princess, you're Willow. I didn't think that was your meow. I'm sorry, Loey. But I could have sworn Winkles was in here. Anyway, they give you $5. And of course, they expire in 3 months. Well, what they don't tell you, and you can, if you pay attention, you'll notice, they expire the day after your new ones kick in. So for one day, every 6 months, you have $10 to spend on Gamefly shit, in addition to cash. And that was this month. That was on the 3rd, I believe. Or maybe it was the 4th. So I took my money, and I basically got Final Fantasy 12, Zodiac Age, I think is what it's called, the PS4 version, because I had it rented, and I'm keeping it now for like $13 instead of the $22 they were going to charge. Because I saved up my Gamefly points. Not because I am thrifty, but because they didn't have anything that I wanted to justify spending money on a couple months ago. But no, usually that's what I do, is I get 2 games a year from Gamefly. And the whole reason this was even a thing, that I even did that, is there's a new game coming out called Vampire. And it actually came out either today or 2 days ago, I don't remember what. And I wanted to play it, but I didn't necessarily want to send in Final Fantasy 12. And even then, I'm one of those people who keeps forgetting to do that, so. Basically, by buying Final Fantasy 12, I now own it, and they're sending my next game, which I'm actually checking my queue right now. It may be Vampire, it may be something else. Because they finally put the option back in, where if they don't have the game I want, they will wait a couple days for it to come in. Because when Gamefly first kicked off, when I first got into Gamefly, that's how it was. Like, you can set your options so that the game you want, when it comes in, it'll come to you, or it'll wait 3 days, and if it's not in by then, they'll send the next one to your list. Or you could just say, send me a game immediately, and then, like, a year or 2 later... Sorry, I had to take a drink. A year or 2 later, they got rid of that option. So I would I would check into my game queue kind of thing. And, like, oh, here's this awesome game I want to play. And they're like, oh, we've shipped a game from Gamefly. And I would log onto the site thinking, oh, I'm going to get this awesome game. And then, no, sure enough, they sent the 5th or 6th game on my fucking list because that's the one that was in stock. And I read them the riot act over this 8 different times, basically saying, you assholes, now as soon as this gets in, I have to put it in the mailbox, send it back, and re-add it to my queue, because while I want to play it, I want to play this more, you know? And every single time it happened, I did that to them. And eventually they put the option back, and it's better because of it. Okay, so it looks like they haven't sent anything yet, which is fine. Because Vampire is on low availability, and that's next on my list. Under that is the Spider-Man game that comes out in 3 months. And then a game called Blue Reflection. I can't remember what that's about, but it's on there. There's Dead Rising, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 13, Dead Rising 4, a bunch of other shit. What is Blue Reflection about? Because if it's really good, I might just jump it up the list. That's interesting. I might bump that up a bit. Alright, anywho, so yeah, that's how my week has been so far. Oh, the shoe thing. Okay. I have had, in the past several months, due to the rise in rent and some other things, and recently an increase in how much my vet bills cost, I basically had to ask Mom for money because she's been getting her money again. Because apparently Medicaid is now paying her full thing, so she gets her check again. And usually I just get like 50 from her, you know. And I hate even asking for that. I want desperately to have a job so that I can support myself. But that just doesn't seem to be in the fucking cards for me, does it? But the roommate wanted me to get flea pills for all the girls this month, so that's about $70. So I was originally going to ask Mom for 100. And then I decided, well, my shoe is about to rip in half. Maybe I can go 120. And then when I got the shoes, they were more than I thought. So I basically said, hey, can I bump this up? And she bumped it up to 150. You know, I asked for more. I didn't give them a number. And they're like, is 150 good? I'm like, 150's fine. So while I was down there, I got 2 of the shiny Zygarde cards, which is cool. I got my shoes, my new sandals, which I don't know if it's the humidity or if it's the model itself, but I've been sweating in sandals. And they're the same fucking model as the one I had before, so there's no reason for it. Because I don't do it in the old ones. Maybe it's just because they're not broken in, or maybe it's because it's the summertime. And also, of course, I got the pills. And I got to see Mom, because that was the thing. I basically told my aunt, I'm like, hey, if possible, I want to see Mom, because she's been wanting me to come up there, and, you know, Clearwater's a long way from St. Pete on a bike. You know what I mean? And it's just... So yeah, I got to hang out with her for a lot of the day. I was actually supposed to go Friday. I ended up going Saturday. What happened was, the plan was to go Friday. I was supposed to get there at, like, let's say 10 o'clock. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the 5, which will take me to Grand Central to get on the 18, which will take me to PetSmart. And you can meet me at PetSmart. So I get up early. You know, I get on my bike, go down to the bank, pull out $3, walk into the gas station, hand the guy $1, get 4 quarters. Go home, get prepped, go to the bus stop, walking. Get there, sit, wait for the bus pulls up, reach in to get my money, the fucking $2 is gone. And I never got it back, by the way. So, right there's my bus fare. So I call my aunt as I'm walking home saying, hey, change of plans, here's what happened. So, I'm going to rest up, I'm going to cool down, because it was hot as balls out. And I'm going to... Why am I doing this? I have a bed now. I'm going to rest up a bit, hop on the bike, go to Grand Central, get my ticket, take the 18. I'll just be a half an hour later than I would have been. So I drag ass to the last minute, get on the bike, get there, arrive to see the 18 that I want pulling out, get my ticket, call my aunt and tell her, you know what, that's 2 failed attempts to get on a bus. This is cursed. I'm taking my ticket, going home, we'll try Monday or something. Why Monday, Kyrix? Because, at least in Florida, Saturdays and Sundays the bus works off the holiday schedule, which means they stop a whole lot later, stop a whole lot earlier, start a whole lot later. Some buses don't run at all, and the ones that do run once an hour instead of every half an hour, making it a nightmare to get anywhere. But she called and told me she probably couldn't take me to see Mom on Monday, but she could do the rest. And then she called me like that night and told me, okay, if you can do Saturday, I can do Saturday. I'm like, okay, we'll do Saturday. Normally, I try not to take the bus on Saturday, but I'm only taking the one bus. If you're taking one bus, the hour-long transits or hour-long stops don't get that bad because you're just on the one bus. Whereas, let's say I decided to take the 5 to the 18 and didn't bring my bike, right? If the 5 is late and the 18 is early, I could be waiting an hour for the next 18. You know, just period. And that will fuck your whole day up. But because I just get on the 18, you know, I just get on the 18 and then I bike the rest of the way. Or I bike there and then get on the 18. But, yeah, I got some food. Oh, by the way, in case you're wondering why I asked for the increase in the first place, it's because I ran out of food in a big way, and for 2 days had to buy food, which took my already very depleted cash reserves and depleted them more. Because I had, like, no groceries and no food of any kind, really, except ramen. And we've described already in detail why it is I can't really cook. So, that's just a thing. But yeah, Pokemon was kind of drag-ass today. But we're finally going to do my tournament, because I finally worked up the balls to do it. I have pretty much given up hatching my shiny Mareep. At this point, I've contacted Henri and got him trying to breed it for me. And I will eventually get back to it, but I have, for 3 or 4 fucking months, put off breeding anything other than Mareep, and I really need to get this fucking... get my teams altered, you know? I need new Pokemon. Like, there's shit that I've been wanting to train. Or shit that I need to train because I never have. And it's kind of bullshit that a single pink sheep, or lack thereof, has been keeping me from it. But no more. Also, Monday, my friend should be coming over. I'm not sure what we were going to do. Before I hit the overdraft, I thought maybe we'd see a movie or something. But unless he's paying for my ticket, that's not going to happen. I had the money and tried to get him to go see Deadpool 2 with me, but he wouldn't do it, so I still haven't seen it yet. And you know, in hindsight, I probably won't watch that with him, because the whole point was to see it blind together. You know? But I will not miss Jurassic World. Because, to date, I have seen every single Jurassic Park movie in theaters, in some cases multiple times, and I will not change that now. This will not be the exception to that rule. Because I'm still just as big a fan of dinosaurs as I ever really was. But yeah, the whole reason I put my tournament off on Pokemon, even though I could have claimed it a couple times, is because my tournament requires an extensive amount of breeding, because it involves 1 Fire-type starter, 1 Water-type starter, 1 Grass-type starter, 1 Box Legendary, 1 Evolution, 1 Pika Clone. And I don't have a lot of those ready. So, that's a thing. On the plus side, I do now have the hidden ability versions of every single starter in Pokemon. So I can play with that at least. So hopefully in the 3 weeks or so that it's going to take before the tournament starts, I will have the time to have a full set. Oh, there we go. It is pumpkin time! Gimme! More pumpkins mean more jack-o'-lanterns, meaning I can fucking explore shit. Now they're coming in. But yeah, God, I hate getting old, man. Because every single time I fire this up, I'm like, okay, at the end of this, I'm going to do recordings of Mighty Number 9, or, oh god, what's it called? Or Shadow of the Colossus, or Phantom Pain, or anything like that. And then towards the end, my back starts to hurt, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to lay down for 6 hours. You know, what I would love to do is get a recliner, not that I'm sure where I'd fucking put it in here. Rig up my hospital table again, and just record like I used to back in the day at the apartment. You know? Good shit, that. Alright, we're at 46 minutes, and I've run out of shit to talk about. So I'll see you next time, everyone. Bye-bye!